This is a KCRG TV9 special. First Alert, Winter Ready.
I'm meteorologist Joe Winters. Winter weather has already been here from time to time, bringing some below freezing temperatures, a few days of snow, and some slippery roads. Tonight we want to take a look at the types of weather we could experience this winter, and we'll go through some ways also to stay safe. But to start off, what can we expect for our winter season? It's probably the question that we get the most in the TV9 Weather Lab as winter approaches. What can we expect? And there are many ways to take a look. Some people trust the Old Farmer's Almanac, and if you follow the Old Farmer's Almanac, you can expect a mild and snowy winter back across areas of eastern Iowa, mild and dry farther back off to the west. We'll see how the Old Farmer's Almanac does come March. Let's look a little more scientifically, though. We do take a look at sea surface temperatures, very important to our winter pattern. La Nina shows cooler waters off the coast of Peru, and for us, that also means types of winter weather that we'll see. There's a borderline El Nino expected, relatively weak, and it's expected to persist through March. What does that mean for us? Well, the effects of a La Nina winter on Iowa winters, statewide temperatures are generally cooler. Cold years can happen, but not extremely cold years, and precipitation shows a trend of wetter than normal in La Nina years. What it is, again, those waters off the coast of Peru produce that cool water, and that cool water puts a jet stream on us and a northwest flow across the upper Midwest. Cold conditions to the north, wet conditions in the Ohio-Tennessee Valley, and again, kind of equal chances here in eastern Iowa. Recent La Nina winters in eastern Iowa, 2020, 2021, 2021 and 2022, and 2022 and 2023, fairly weak in most locations. For us, probably an indication of more snow than we saw last year, and of course, some colder temperatures. Meteorologist Hannah Messier is up next, and she's going to show us some of the winter weather alerts that are changing this year.
This year, alerts about unsafe temperatures and wind chills will look a little different.
We are switching the terminology from wind chill warning to extreme cold warning, and likewise, a wind chill advisory is now a cold weather advisory.
The change from wind chill alerts to cold weather alerts is to decrease the emphasis on wind chills.
Now we're going to talk more in depth about these new alerts from the National Weather Service. So an extreme cold watch, those are issued when extreme cold conditions are expected within the next 24 to 48 hours. That means you need to prepare for the cold temperatures that are in the forecast. A cold weather advisory will be issued by the National Weather Service when cold temperatures are expected within the next 24 hours. You want to limit time outdoors when cold weather advisories are issued. And next we have the extreme cold warning. Now, extreme cold warnings are issued when extreme cold conditions are expected within the next day, and these are going to be those really cold temperatures that are out there with extreme cold warnings. So that's when you really want to limit your time outside and make sure you wear several layers of clothing. Now, this is the criteria for the National Weather Service to issue a cold weather advisory. Now, if you are along and north of Highway 20, that's when you're going to need temperatures between minus 25 to minus 34 degrees. Again, that's north of Highway 20. Farther south of Highway 20, an advisory will be issued for temperatures and wind chills between minus 20 and minus 29. Now, with the extreme cold warning, in order for this to be issued, you need temperatures or wind chills in minus 35 or colder along and north of Highway 20. South of Highway 20, you're going to need temperatures or wind chills 30 degrees or colder for that extreme cold warning to be issued.
The basic reason is we're trying to get across to the public the important message that cold is cold, regardless of whether or not there is strong wind involved.
In Cedar Rapids, meteorologist Hannah Messier, KCRG TV9 News.
Now, a couple of times this year already, snowplow drivers have been busy brining the roads, and they did have to clear some snow. KCRG TV9's Emily Schrod takes a look into the job of state and city plows.
In Iowa, winter weather can hit any time from October to sometimes even into April. That's why Mike Barkalow, Public Works Director for the city of Marion, says they prep in advance before that snowy weather makes its way to the Hawkeye State.
We actually have the drivers actually go drive the routes and make sure that are there trees that we need to take down that it could possibly be hit by the snow plows? It's good to see it in a non-snowy environment.
Barkalow says each winter storm is different, so exact cleanup times can never be predicted.
We don't start hitting our residential streets until the snow stops and we get our primaries and secondaries, because again, we want the main roads for fire, police, and those main arterials.
Barkalow says when you see plows out on the streets, give them room. Chris Litcher, garage operations assistant at the Iowa DOT, adds that goes for plows on the interstate as well.
The hardest problem we have with traffic is when it's done snowing and the road is just starting to get a little bit wet, and then traffic starts picking up their speed, and we're still out there trying to clean up at the end of the storm.
Litcher adds crews work hard both before the storm, pre-treating roads with brine, and during the storm, laying down salt. And just because winter weather is a common sight in Iowa, after a long summer, Barkalow says it's important to remember just how different driving in that weather can be.
You need to change driving behavior. It's not dry weather anymore. We're trying to make the roads safer for all the users that are out there. Let us do our job to make it so that everybody makes it home.
Making sure everyone has a safe start and end to this winter season. In Lynn County, Emily Schrod, KCRG TV9 News.
Slow is best, of course, when you're driving in winter weather. Coming up now, TV9's Justin Roberts joins us to see how your vehicle can be made safe on the roads this winter.
Well, one of the things you think about during winter weather is getting where you need to go, and that means you got to have your sleigh ready to go as well. Al Wright with John's Automotive here in Cedar Rapids, a good friend of ours. Al, we're getting ready for the colder months. What are some things people need to have in mind getting their car or truck ready to travel safely?
Just a good check over, good inspection, checking cabin air filters, things like that, because that will affect the heat. I'll just kind of show you. Here's a dirty cabin air filter. You can see the
a lot of gunk and that stuff that gets picked up off the road.
And then there's a new one, so you can tell the difference, and that will definitely affect airflow coming through the vents. So, we see quite a few that you'd swear they've never been checked. So, we want to make sure that they're getting checked. Obviously, tire pressures, tire tread. You don't see a lot of stuff with snow tires anymore, but we want to have tires checked and tire pressures and tread wise as well. And antifreeze. I mean, the things you don't always think, I can get by with this. Well, straight antifreeze, if people go buy a jug of antifreeze and start adding straight antifreeze will freeze. So we want to make sure it's a good 50-50 mix. It's good to 34 below is where we test it.
What about windshield washer fluid? Do you need anything special? Because obviously that stays in a tank. Can that freeze, and what's the best way to deal with that?
You want to make sure the stuff that we use, most of the stuff that you can buy is going to be protected for the winter. There are some things out there that's got that bug off and some of that windshield washer stuff as far as fluid that will freeze. And if you get a car that's here from down south, a lot of that, they don't have the protection down there. So you want to make sure that it's protected for the weather.
One of the things we always talk about when we're on the air is, all right, if you're going to do any driving in the wintertime, make sure you have that emergency road kit. Tell me a little bit about what do I need in one? Can I just buy one put together? Can I put my own together?
Yeah, you can put your own together. I would recommend jumper cables, a small collapsible shovel. You want to make sure you have that. Even some, it used to be flares, but even some reflective triangle markers so that if you're stranded on the side of the road that you're visible, or some caution tape. You see the ones that are in the ditch a lot of times, and the state comes out and puts the caution tape on them. So you want to make sure that you're marked so that people can see. But jumper cables, blanket, cell phone charged, things like that, I would highly recommend.
If people have any questions, hey, I need somebody to look over the car before it gets really cold, how can people get a hold of you?
We're at 4910 Johnson Avenue Northwest here in Cedar Rapids, or you can schedule an online appointment at www.johnsautomotiveservice.com, or you can give us a call.
Thanks for joining us. Our first alert, winter ready. Let's send it back to the studio and you guys.
Now, whenever winter weather hits, you can always check driving conditions by downloading the KCRG News and Weather apps. We'll be right back. Stay with us here on TV9. Welcome back to our special First Alert Winter Ready. Now, the storms that impact eastern Iowa and other parts of the United States certainly move through, and they come from different parts of the country as well. Meteorologist Corey Thompson takes a look.
The storms that give us wintry weather come in a number of forms, but three main ones. First one we'll talk about, Alberta Clipper. Forms in the western portion of Canada near the province of Alberta. Typically drops to the southeast along a path, especially one that gives us snow in eastern Iowa that crosses across the southwestern half of the state. Warm air rising over that warm front turns into snow showers and usually leaves behind a light to moderate band of accumulation. Our heaviest snowfalls typically don't come from this kind of system. They often come from what we call a panhandle hook. Area of low pressure developing in the western plains kind of rounds around the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas, shifting to the northeast. Now, as it moves near the Gulf, it picks up a ton of moisture and produces a swath of moderate to heavy snow on the northwest side of it. Often strong winds, too. Some of our most memorable snowstorms and blizzards come from that type of storm. Now, in between, the Colorado low is kind of one way or the other. It'll typically track from west to east, and just south of Iowa is the perfect path to get the heaviest snow here in eastern Iowa. But the amounts can vary. It depends on how much moisture that system is able to pull in and how much mixed precipitation can occur. And sometimes we see quite a bit with this type of system. Now, no matter what the winter weather brings, obviously we will be tracking it here in the TV9 Weather Lab.
And you can certainly track winter storms along with the First Alert Storm Team by going to kcrg.com. Keep that in mind. Lots of great information out there. Now, along with winter storms comes cold weather. Meteorologist A.J. Rickman takes a look at what you can do to prepare your home.
Well, as we head into the upcoming winter season, there are certain things that you can do as a homeowner to get yourself and your house ready for the upcoming winter. So to go over some of those things, we've brought in Kurt Sempf with Alliant Energy. Kurt, how are you doing today?
Doing great.
That's good. Good to hear. So as we get ready to head into this upcoming winter, what are some things that homeowners should be doing both inside and outside of their homes to get ready for the cold season that's ahead?
Yeah, that is such a great question for this time of year. Winterizing your home is really all about minimizing those air leaks. You want to keep that heated or conditioned air inside your home for as long as possible. And there's several low-cost, no-cost that you can do, whether you own your home or even if you rent it. Starting on the inside of your home, all you need to do is do a walk around. Put your hand up against windows and doors. Check those drafty areas of your home that you always often maybe might notice. If you can feel cool air coming in or going out, you might have a leak. What you can do to just verify that is light a match, blow it out, and if the smoke moves around, jumps around, or gets sucked outside, you know you have a leak. For windows, you can use a plastic window film kit that you can buy at any local hardware store. You just put the plastic up around the window, use a hairdryer to tighten it up, and that seals the leak where the window's at. Around the frames, if you're feeling that cold air, just use some latex sealant, like a latex caulk, and seal those up nice and tight. Moving on to doors, you just do the same thing. You feel around the edges. If you feel a draft coming in where the door is closed and around the edges, you can get a door kit. Those kits have several things like foam strips or plastic strips that you can adhere to the edges and help seal those up. Don't forget the doors that go into your garage, because if you're going into your garage, that's typically an unheated area and could be causing a leakage as well.
Here in eastern Iowa, we encounter a variety of precipitation types. What brings us the different types of precipitation? Everything starts as snow. If it moves through an entire warm layer, that'll melt that snow into rain. It stays as rain. If it goes into rain with a warm layer and has a shallow pool of cold air, we get freezing rain. A little more cold air brings us sleet. And if it's cold throughout the entire column, that's when we get some snow. And of course, as we head toward the freezing rain and sleet, that's when we find the most dangerous travel conditions. Let's take a closer look at how freezing rain works. Again, starting as snow, the warm layer changes that to rain. As that rain goes down farther in the atmosphere, it encounters that shallow layer of cold air, and anything that rain hits, roads, cars, it's going to turn it to ice and make for very dangerous travel conditions. Coming up, let's take a look at some of the big winter storms that have hit eastern Iowa over the past 20 years. Stay with your trusted local news and weather source, KCRG TV9. Welcome back to First Alert Winter Ready. Eastern Iowa has seen its share of snowy, icy, and cold winter conditions. Meteorologist Corey Thompson takes a look back at some of our biggest winter storms.
Winter weather can be extreme and memorable, and the 21st century has had no shortage of big-time winter weather events. The late February 2007 ice storm is one that won't be forgotten. After 1 to 2 inches of ice accumulated across a good portion of Iowa, northeast Iowa got more than a foot. Winds up to 50 miles per hour multiplied the damage, causing widespread power line and tree damage. For some, power was out for more than a week in very cold conditions. The 2011 Groundhog Day blizzard was a powerful winter storm that produced a swath of 1 to 2 feet of snow from Oklahoma to Michigan, including eastern Iowa. Winds of 40 to 50 miles per hour snarled travel and built up drifts measured in feet, one of the worst snowstorms in years. Not all winter storms produce snow, but the December 15th, 2021 derecho was a truly remarkable event. After a day of record-shattering highs in the 70s, a squall line of severe storms swept across the state during the afternoon and evening. In addition to significant winds, a record 63 tornadoes occurred in a single day across the state. And January 2024 rounds out our list, where 3 winter storms in about 4 days brought nearly 2 feet of snow and bitter cold to eastern Iowa. Without much time to dig out between new rounds of snow, travel became difficult to impossible at times. Remarkably, we set records for highs in just a couple of weeks. Obviously, we're not quite a quarter through the 21st century. Many more to come, and we'll get you through it here on TV 9.
Now, Corey takes a look back at big weather events in the Weather Rewind during First Alert Weather Now. It streams every weeknight at 6:30 on kcrg.com. A changing climate is having an impact on the weather we see during our winter season. Meteorologist A.J. Rickman talked to state climatologist Justin Glisson about what we're experiencing.
Of course, our climate has had an impact on all of our seasons, and winter is no exception to that. So what changes and trends have we seen over the last 30 to 50 years in terms of temperature and precipitation across eastern Iowa? And then what kinds of changes would we expect to see going forward?
Yep, so broad-scale warming is what we've seen across the much of the upper Midwest, and including the mid-latitudes where we live. And winter is the fastest warming season for the state of Iowa. What that means, you go back to 1895, we've increased the wintertime temperature 0.4 of a degree per decade. You look over the last 30 years of the near-term climatology, over a 0.5 degree increase per decade. So with a warming winter, we're seeing less snowfall potential across the United States, including eastern Iowa, but we're also seeing a shrinking of the wintertime season. More rainfall potential. We've actually seen more severe weather in December. If we go back to December 15, 2021, 63 tornadoes, serial derecho. So with a warming atmosphere, more water vapor availability, less snowfall, more mixed precipitation types, freezing rain, but also thunderstorm potential as well.
Now, coming up, we'll hear from an expert about how you can stay healthy and safe this winter season. Stay with your trusted local news and weather source, KCRG TV 9. Welcome back to our winter weather special. First Alert Winter Ready. Arctic air and heavy snow can be hazardous to your health. Meteorologist Hannah Messier spoke with an expert about what precautions you can take.
From black and blue fingers to broken bones, there are many ways a winter wonderland can become a polar peril. If you don't wear enough clothing during a bout of frigid temperatures, frostbite can cause considerable damage to your limbs.
The temperature is occurring to the point that the cellular activity of the cells stops and they die, and it's very similar to gangrene of an extremity, where you lose the blood supply to tissue and the tissue subsequently dies.
However, the most common injury during the winter months is falling on ice.
27 years experience, it is the time that people do a good job of not falling when it's cold, okay, and there's no sunshine. It's that when it's sunny and they go from a sunny area where it's melted on the concrete or the sidewalk into the shadow, and then that's when they slip and fall.
Shoveling snow after winter storms can also be hazardous if you're not used to strenuous activity.
People that aren't in shape might have a cardiac condition, and then they go and do really strenuous activity. Lifting wet, heavy snow is, we've all felt how heavy that is, and that can certainly cause a degree of stress and strain that precipitates a heart attack.
Lastly, getting your furnace checked can help protect you from carbon monoxide poisoning.
Somebody has an older home and they winterize it prior to the winter. They make it airtight, and then they have an older furnace with incomplete combustion, and then that causes carbon monoxide poisoning. So have a carbon monoxide detector. It will save lives.
So as you sled down hills and tie on your ice skates, just remember to respect Jack Frost. In Cedar Rapids, meteorologist Hannah Messier, KCRG TV 9 News.
Thank you for joining us for First Alert Winter Ready. We hope this gets you a little more prepared for our upcoming winter season.